Hi everyone, Emily Mercado back with you with the Gospel Seminar. We're continuing on with Stage 3, Sin. We're going to continue today talking about the origin of sin. Last time we started, we gave just a brief overview of the origin of sin. Today that's where our focus is going to remain. So as always, a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, just a reminder that I am not a trained theologian. I'm just a humble messenger, sharing the word with you, you dear listeners. As always, I'm using the Bible translation I'm using is the NIV translation. You are always free to use whichever translation you want, whichever translation is the most comfortable for you. But just for consistency's sake, I'm going to use the NIV translation. This seminar, the contents have been developed by Pastor Soom Ki Kang and Pastor Joe Kim. They're the pastors at my church, the Church of Jesus in Paramus, New Jersey. And again, even though I'm not a trained theologian, I'm just a humble messenger sharing the gospel and the word with you. So we're going to start with the corruption of Satan today. So that's kind of where we're going to start our focus. We're going to start off in the Word, in the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verses 12 through 15. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mountain of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. Okay. In this verse, in these particular verses, Satan, is basically saying that he will be higher than God. We know and understand that there is no one above God. So that, that idea, that thought that he had was the ultimate reason why he was cast out of heaven. So who is the devil? The devil is an actual person, an actual being. It's most definitely not a figurative term. He was originally called Luciel. He was an angel, created by God to be with him in heaven. Again, originally called Luciel, which means star, light, and brilliance. He was an archangel, anointed by God, anointed to be used gloriously to praise God and God's glory. But, he became corrupted when he challenged the glory of God, as we saw in the book of Isaiah. Okay? And kind of different titles of the devil. Luciel, he's the archangel of heaven. We see that in the book of Ezekiel. The book of Ezekiel. If you give me a moment. Okay, Ezekiel 28:14 says, you were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. Lucifer, after he sinned, he was referred to as Lucifer, as we just read in Isaiah previously. Satan, which also means rebel, the enemy, and the status of having sinned. And that description actually can be found in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 9, which says, the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels were with him. So not only was Satan cast out of heaven, a third of all the angels were also, cast out of heaven, Satan's followers. We don't know how many that was. Only God knows. Right? He's also called the ruler of darkness after he is contained in Hades, or the universe. We can find that in the book of Isaiah. So Isaiah chapter 14, verse 15. You are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. And we can also find that in the book of Jude. Every time I hear that, I always think of the song "Hey Jude" by the Beatles. I know that that's not what it's in reference to, but so it's in the book of Jude. In the book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 6. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. He's also known as the gates of Hades, after he's contained in Hades, or the universe. And that description is also found in Matthew, the book of Matthew. The book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 18, which says, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." The gates of Hades here in this particular verse is Satan. Satan will not overcome. He's also ruler of the kingdom of the air. This is again after he's contained in Hades, and that can be found in Ephesians 2:2, chapter 2, verse 2. I'm actually going to start with verse 1. "As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world, and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient." So as you're seeing, there are so many titles of the devil, and the devil, he's referred to as the devil after the creation of mankind. And that can be found in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him." After causing Adam to sin, he is also called the ruler of death. That can be found in Genesis 2:17. Which says, "But you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." That can also be found in Genesis 3, chapters 4 through 6. "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And also, we can find that in Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, chapter 2, verse 14. "Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is, the devil." He's also called God of the world, the prince of the world, after he gains control of the world. And as you can see, John 12:31 and John 14:30, also 2 Corinthians 4:4. He leads the whole world astray after the judgment of Christ, Revelation 12:9. And the title of the devil, who is one being, changes depending on location and function. That's where it gets a little bit confusing. As you can see, he has different names based on how the devil is relating to the world. For example, Satan, one of the names of the devil is Satan, meaning that he is against God, he is the rebel, he is the enemy. But against humans, he's called the devil because he separates and he destroys human relationships. And this can be found in Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 10, when it says, "Jesus said to him, 'Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only.'" So in this particular verse, like in the verses previous to this, Satan and the devil were interacting with Jesus. So again, why did Jesus call him Satan? Because Jesus himself is God. And, by comparison, the devil attacks, fights against, and separates humans. Since the death of Jesus on the cross, the devil has no power over us. From the moment Jesus died on the cross, Jesus condemned the devil as sin, and all authorities of the devil were stripped away. For example, this example actually is a real world example. When a high official of a government is charged with a crime, he's no longer a high official. He's a criminal, and all of his authorities are stripped away. The devil actually is no longer the ruler of death or the king of the world. He's only pretending. In his own mind, he thinks he's these, but he thinks he's the ruler of death. He thinks he's the king of the world, but the reality and the truth are that he's only pretending. And again, in Revelation 12:9, the devil leads the whole world astray. And, the church exists where the authority of Hades is, which is here in the world. And, the devil, like a roaring lion, tries to devour those who are chosen by God. That can actually be found in 1 Peter, the first book of Peter, chapter 5, verse 8, says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." I'm going to go on to verse 9. "Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers around the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings." The devil, as a reminder, I know I just said this a minute or two ago, but the devil pretends to still have authority, and those who are under the devil think that is their destiny. We as Christian believers, we have the power to be freed from the authority of death, oppressions, curses, and pains of the world. So the content of Lucifer's rebellion is as follows. He denied, he denied the one and only God. He in Lucifer's mind, he is above God, when the reality is that really nobody is. He was focused on himself and his own heart, whereas Christians, we should be focused on God. We should turn our eyes to Jesus. We should turn our eyes to God. Lucifer became his own master. Again, he denied the only one God, and, emphasizing one's own heart, being proud, or, being like, overly like, look at me, is a characteristic of Lucifer. He also, there is also the deification of creation. No one can sit on the throne. No creation can sit on the throne. Lucifer was created by God. So therefore, he cannot sit on the throne of God because he is a creation. The only one who can sit on God's throne is the uncreated one, God, the creator of all. Okay, and the devil himself said in his heart that he would ascend to the throne. This is actually considered idolatry, which is in this context, it's the desire of wanting to be enthroned and worshipped. All right, and also it's self-idolization, when a creation attempts to be worshipped by others. He also challenged the name of God. He blasphemed the name of God, and he attempted to compete with God by challenging his name, by challenging God's authority, right? And he confused the resting environment of God, right? And so, Lucifer, left his domain, and he destroyed the order. He destroyed God's order. He challenged Adam and Eve, and he challenged Jesus over and over again in Matthew chapter 4. In terms of, the law of Moses, gave recognition, it was given to recognize sin, right? And, the birthplace of the law and the founder of the law was the devil, as the law was given to help prevent sin. So when you look at the first four of the Ten Commandments, which can be found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 to 17, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt. You will have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. Okay, so it's the first four of the Ten Commandments. First, you shall have no other gods before me. Second, do not make for yourself an idol. Do not practice idolatry. Third, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord, or another way to say that, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. And fourth, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Remember, it's the Lord's day. Go to church, do things that are glorifying the Lord. And until this day, whether unbelievers recognize it or not, they often possess the characteristics of the devil. And, believers like myself, we're constantly tempted to commit sin. Now, when we sin, obviously when we do something wrong, there's punishment. So the punishment of sin is one explanation can be found in Isaiah 14:15. But you are brought down to the grave, to the depths of the pit. So in order for God to punish sin, he created Hades, the world, right? Lucifer committed sin, so he threw him so God threw the devil to the bottom of the pit, and he contained him in it. It's kind of like arresting a criminal and keeping that criminal in jail until Judgment Day. And in 2 Peter 2:4, it also says, for if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them into gloomy dungeons to be held for judgment, that's, if you punish the angels, can you imagine what he does to us as humans, when we sin? And also in Jude, verse 6, and the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their own home, these he kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. So it's a pretty horrible punishment, for sin. And before God created the world, there was darkness. We find that in Genesis chapter 1. And he made the vast space pitch dark, aka Hades, also known as Hades. It's kind of like a prison where the first inmate was the devil. So, I've got, some discussion questions. I know this was a little bit of a heavier topic today, but I've got, my discussion questions as always. What were your ideas about the devil before this lesson? What do you think of the devil's characteristics? Do they sound strange or familiar? Is there any part of his characteristics that you also have? What are they? How does this understanding of the devil affect your views on spiritual life, your spiritual life? How would you present this argument to unbelievers, people who deny the existence of the devil? And as always, we end in prayer. Lord, we were once the children of the devil, destined to go to hell with him, but you have set us free from his bondage. Let us all break away from his characteristics and habits. Let us press on, and let no one be left behind in his burning prison. I hope you got a lot out of the session, and I hope that I've left you with a couple of nuggets and things to ponder for next time. Pray for me, and I will always pray for you. Blessings to you today.